First, like to just ask kindly if everyone could turn off their cell phone or put it on silent, please. Oh, you may sit down as well. um, on behalf of the Hooshmand family, would like to thank everyone for joining us. Most welcome, and we appreciate that you're here today. We're here to remember Tahereh Hooshmand, who was set free from this world on October 18th. Thank you for travelers and those who are joining us from afar, and those who are joining us online as well. We have guests here from across the country, from south of the border in the States, from Washington, from Texas, North Carolina. Welcome. Guests internationally from Australia and Iran, thank you for taking time and joining us. We share your heartbreak that you can't all be here in person, but know that your support brings us comfort. We are here for moments of prayer, moments of peace, for thoughtfulness and joy. During the program, please remember Tahereh, your mother, your grandmother, your cousin, your aunt, your friend, and let us reflect on her life. She was a shining light, always smiling, full of joy, and full of love. We hope to share some of that light with you today. The program includes prayers, song, and memories from her family and friends. And first, I'd like to invite Daniel Hooshmand to start with a prayer.
O Lord, O thou whose mercy hath encompassed all, whose forgiveness is transcendent, whose bounty is sublime, whose pardon and generosity are all-embracing, and the lights of whose forgiveness are diffused throughout the world. O Lord of God, I entreat thee, fervently and tearfully, to cast upon thy handmaiden, who hath ascended upon the glances of the eye of thy mercy. Robe her in the mantle of thy grace, bright with the ornaments of thy celestial paradise, and shelter her beneath the tree of thy oneness. Illume her face with the lights of thy mercy and compassion. Bestow upon thy heavenly handmaiden, O God, the holy fragrances born of the spirit of thy forgiveness. Cause her to dwell in the blissful abode, heal her griefs with the balm of thy reunion, and in accordance with thy will, grant her admission to thy holy paradise. Let the angels of thy loving kindness descend successively upon her, and shelter her beneath thy blessed tree. Thou art verily the ever-forgiving, the most generous, the all-bountiful. Abdul Baha.
نفس نفیسی به ملکوت تویی دهنده و بخشنده و مهربان و تویی آمرزنده و نوازنده و توانا.
هوالله ای خداوند بیمانم، این یار عزیز را بپرور و تارکش را به افسر عطا زینت و زیور بخش. دیهم جهانبانی جهان جاودانی ده و اکلیل موهبت آسمانی بر سر گذار. مشتاق دیدار بود در محفل تجلی راه ده و آرزوی مشاهده می نمود پرتو لقا مبذول فرما. پروانه مشتاق بود به شمع جمال نزدیک فرما. بلبل پر احتراق بود به وصل گل فائز کن. یارانش را یاوری فرما و صبر و قرار بخش و تحمل و استبار عنایت کن تا در فرقتش از حرقت نجات یابند و از حرمان و هجرانش تسلی قلب حاصل کنند. تویی مقتدر، تویی عزیز، تویی معین، تویی توانا و انک انت علی کل شیء قدیر.
know thou that the soul of man is exalted above, and is independent of all infirmities of body or mind, that a sick person showeth signs of weakness is due to the hindrances that interpose themselves between his soul and his body, for the soul itself remaineth unaffected by any bodily ailments. Consider the light of the lamp. Though an external object may interfere with its radiance, the light itself continueth to shine with undiminished power. In like manner, every malady afflicting the body of man is an impediment that preventeth the soul from manifesting its inherent might and power. When it leaveth the body, however, it will evince such ascendancy and reveal such influence as no force on earth can equal. Every pure, every refined, and sanctified soul will be endowed with tremendous power, and shall rejoice with exceeding gladness.
I would like to thank you all for coming today to remember the life of Tahereh Hooshmand Sarvestani. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge her family in the United States, and especially her oldest son, Ahmad, and his family, who for many months have been trying to come and visit her, to the point of driving to the border, just hoping and praying that they may come across, and sadly being turned away. And so I just want them to know they are with us now. They are watching, and we are thinking of them. I remember my grandmother telling me once that grandchildren are sweeter than children. And I think certainly she would say that the great-grandchildren are the sweetest of all. So she would be very happy to see all of her family and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren here today. We are here to celebrate the life of Tahereh Hooshmand Sarvestani. Her life is really an amazing story, and she has overcome many, many hardships. And she was also part of a very deep spiritual legacy. But she was never one to dwell or speak much of the struggles that came upon her. So today, I won't spend much time speaking of them either. I would like instead to share some of the great things of her life and celebrate with you. She was born October 4th, 1935, in Sarvestan, Iran. She was given the name Tahereh, which means the pure one, by her beloved uncle Habib, and she was always very proud of this name, and she said that it was a good name, and she must try to live up to it. Her parents were Khan Baba and Bibi Shah Hooshmand Sarvestani. She was the second of 5 children. Her oldest brother Avaz, her younger brother Farang, her younger sister Esmat, and her youngest brother Nasser. She always described to me her early years as the most happy and the most peaceful. She would describe with joy in her eyes playing in the gardens and the flowers around her home, climbing the highest trees, and picking the sweetest anar to eat, the pomegranate. Sadly, Her childhood and life were turned upside down. Her family endured severe religious persecution, and her beloved uncle was martyred. At that point, her family was forced to relocate to Shiraz. At a young age, she married Badiullah Hooshmand, and she was lovingly devoted to him for 62 years of her life. She had 5 children, Ahmad, Mahmud, Mahnaz, Masood, and Mehran. When her family was young, she worked tirelessly homemaking and to support them. She supported her husband in his business in which they had many struggles, and she used to weave carpets beautifully and sell them to support her family. She would weave intricate patterns by hand and entirely from memory. It was quite amazing to see. As her children grew up, she faced the very difficult choice of sending them away to avoid further persecution. She spent 13 years away from her children, waiting to be reunited again. My mom said that by this time, she had been worn thin by worry and sorrow. And her husband later said that if she had not brought her here to see her children, she would have passed away. I remember meeting my grandma at that time, 6 years old, for the first time. Someone I'd never seen before, who looked so different and smelt so different. She took my face in her hands, and she kissed my cheeks over and over and over again, just like a grandmother who had never seen her grandchild. Of course, her days in Canada presented their own unique challenges. She came here at an older age. She was forced to learn the customs of a new country, to learn a new language, and of course face bitter cold winters. But all of this was worthwhile. She had the joy of seeing her family often. Her son Ahmad and his family would visit every year, and these became regular occurrences and memories in all of her grandchildren's lives. One of the highlights of her life in Canada was having the privilege to do Baha'i pilgrimage and visit the Holy Land in Haifa, Israel. She was able to see the beautiful gardens and shrines and temples, and to meet several hands of the cause, which was a great honor for her. She was predeceased by her beloved husband. She always missed him and loved him dearly, and she kept a picture of him with her even till her final days. I am, of course, very happy they are together again. Grandma's home was always a home of open doors. Everyone was welcome. You would come in, you would sit down. She would ask you how you were doing, how your brothers are doing, how your sisters are doing, how your parents were doing, how their parents were doing. If you were in school, how was your school doing? If you were in business, how was your business doing? If you were a farmer, did you get enough rain? Did you get too much rain? She was always concerned with others, rarely ever speaking of herself. All of her grandchildren share many memories of being together in a house with hordes of other children running around, making too much noise and making too much trouble. And she was always happy to have us there. We shared fond memories of her food, of her laugh, of her smile, of her hospitality. And I think the years she spent away from her children gave her an even more greater appreciation to be around her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. I think all of her grandchildren can remember going to her house and walking in the door and having her take your face in her hands and kiss you on both cheeks, almost like the first time, as if she hadn't seen you in years. Then you would be brought in, and you would be fed till you could eat no more. My grandmother was a woman of immense faith. The Baha'i faith was central to her life, and her family was persecuted for it, but she never wavered. I am reminded of this writing when I think of her. If thou art a believer, thy faith shall be sufficient for thee above all things that exist on earth, even though thou possess nothing. With any challenges or problems that faced her, or any time I would bring a concern to discuss with her, she would always say, "Do not worry. God will take care of you." She never burdened others, and she always faced her difficulties with a quiet patience and faith that nothing would befall her unless it was the will of God. Grandma was a wonderful example of contentment. I don't mean to say that she was always happy. She was human, of course. But she was always grateful for what God had given her. She never put herself above others. She never asked for what wasn't hers. She never put demands on other people. She was content with the lot she was given and thankful for it. These qualities of her faith and her contentment remind me of this simple prayer. God is sufficient unto me. He verily is the all-sufficing. In him let the trusting trust. As I have thought of her over the past days, I remember a woman of great strength, but never imposing on others. For her, life was of quiet dignity and of honor. I would ask you all to take a moment now and join me in memory of her. If you would, close your eyes and imagine through the eyes of her grandchildren, walking up to her front door, knocking on the door, and having her open it, and welcoming you in and hugging you. She would take your face in her hands and kiss you on both cheeks, as if she had been waiting years to see you. You would go in and enjoy her company, her generosity and her smile. You would eat and eat and eat. And when it was time to leave, she would hug you again, and she would take your face in her hands and kiss you on both cheeks, already waiting to see you again. We love you very much, Grandma.
هوالله. پروردگارا، آمرزگارا، این بندگان پناه تویی، واقف اسرار و آگاه تویی. جمیع ما عاجزیم و تویی مقتدر و توانا. جمیع ما گنهکاریم و تویی رحیم و رحمان. پروردگارا، نظر به قصور ما مکن، به فضل و موهبت خویش معامله کن. خطای ما بسیار است ولی بحر رحمت تو بی پایان. عجز ما بسیار است ولی تأیید و توفیق تو آشکار. پس تأیید ده و توفیق بخش و ما را به آنچه سزاوار درگاه توست موفق نما. دلها را روشن کن و چشمها را بینا نما و گوشها را شنوا کن مردگان را زنده فرما. مریضان را شفا بخش، فقیران را غنا نما و خائفان را امنیت بخش. و ما را در ملکوت خیش قبول نما و به نور هدایت روشن کن. تویی مقتدر، تویی توانا، تویی کریم، تویی رحیم و تویی مهربان. این
O thou kind Lord, this dearly cherished maidservant was attracted to thee, and through reflection and discernment longed to attain thy presence and enter thy realms. With tearful eyes, she fixed her gaze on the kingdom of mysteries. Many a night she spent in deep communion with thee, and many a day she lived in intimate remembrance of thee. At every morn she was mindful of thee, and at every eve she centered her thoughts upon thee. Like unto a singing nightingale, she chanted thy sacred verses, and like unto a mirror, she sought to reflect thy light. O thou forgiver of sins, open thou the way of this awakened soul to enter thy kingdom, and enable this bird, trained by thy hand, to soar in the eternal rose garden. She is afire with longing to draw nigh unto thee. Enable her to attain thy presence. She is distraught and distressed in separation from thee. Cause her to be admitted into thy heavenly mansion. O Lord, we are sinners, but thou art the forgiver. We are submerged in the ocean of shortcomings, but thou art the pardoner, the kind. Forgive our sins and bless us with thine abundant grace. Grant us the privilege of beholding thy countenance, and give us the chalice of joy and bliss. We are captives of our own transgressions, and thou art the King of bountiful favors. We are drowned in a sea of iniquities, and thou art the Lord of infinite mercy. Thou art the giver, the glorious, the eternal, the bounteous. And thou art the all-gracious, the all-merciful, the omnipotent, he who is the bestower of gifts and the forgiver of sins. Verily thou art he whom we turn to for the remission of our failings, he who is the Lord of lords.
lot of us here. There's a lot we'd like to say, so yeah, we're just gonna jump right in. Go ahead, guys.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to say that we really love and miss Grandma, my grandmother, great grandma. She was always the nicest person, the most kind person. She was always very hospitable. I always remember how her house smelled with the tea and everything. And just wanted to say that she always made every one of us a better person, and we're very grateful for having her in our life.
Love you, great grandma.
We will always remember your warm smile and all the memories. Thank you so much.
Love you, great grandma. Thank you for taking care of us.
I like you, great grandma. I hope you have a great day because you are happy. I hope you are going to
Good job, guys. Okay, Mom, do you have something? Mom?
Yes, I wish I could say, I have to type what I would like to say because I really have a lot to say, but there's really not much I remember about Mom and Dad because when they came to America, Richard and Jermaine were in the grade school and we were struggling as other families do. Additionally, they didn't speak English at the time, and though I'm sure we all wanted to get acquainted, we mostly get together in front of the TV while folding heaps of laundry. Then it was decided that they went to college to learn English. Dad showed a lot of enthusiasm, almost always early, though Mom was never behind. Eventually, we were able to communicate. Not long after that, however, they decided to go to Canada. They only stayed with us for 6 months. Mom was a simple woman with an endearing demeanor at all times. With that simplicity, however, was her deep wisdom, intelligence, and in fact, elegance. As I look at her in gatherings, she always had that smile on her face and seemed to be ready at all times to serve, always solicitous to anyone's desire. I love her rice with raspberry the most, and she always tries to make that when she knows I'm around. She really was full of love. Each time I talked to her, both in person and on the phone, she would call each other by name and says, I love you, her, him, etc. Lastly, and perhaps the best of all about her, is that she never said anything negative or bad about anyone. I love you, Mom, and this is my tribute to you. I feel so blessed and loved by you, Dad, and your entire family. God be with your soul, and I pray we will all be together for eternity. I love you, Mom.
Thank you, Mom. You know, it's kind of really hard to follow that. Look, guys, times are crazy. I really wish we had the opportunity to come there. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of you. You know, again, I think that things happen for a reason. I don't really know how to explain how I feel. There's a lot of, I have a lot of feelings right now. So we love you all. Yeah, we're all with you guys in spirit. Grandma, we love you. Okay.
Hi everyone, sorry. Yes, I offer my sincere sympathy to all of you and please, will you rest in peace.
Thank you. Okay. See you guys soon. Hi everyone. Hooshmand.
Dastam Begir means hold my hand. Thank you for everyone for attending. On behalf of the family, special thanks to everyone who supported and has been helping, everyone who helped Grandma for the past few months as well. The interment, the address for the cemetery is in the program on the inside on the lower right. So you can find directions for the name and place there. And the family will be joining us again here at 1 o'clock for another small gathering. I think that concludes the program. Thank you, everyone. You can have water. Thank you. Here.
Can you